Good to have you with us on the program. So what did you think about these numbers, Grant? I mean, it's doubled from last year, but pretty much in line with expectations.
Yeah, well, actually at the top end of expectations anyway. The revenue line was certainly in line with expectations, and they seem to do a bit better at the corporate and tax levels. Yeah.
Okay, now what impressed you most about Newcrest here? Because we have gold prices still higher on the year so far. Do you think Newcrest is going to see these kind of results going forward?
Oh, they're probably going to keep doing better. They've got a very strong growth profile. You know, setting aside the Lihir merger, which obviously provides instantaneous growth, both Newcrest's existing operations and Lihir have good, strong growth projects over the next 5 years. So the merged entity will be producing around 3 million ounces, but by 2014 that'll be closer to 4 million ounces per annum.
Okay, because I'm looking at the price to earnings ratio for the shares, and it looks pretty pricey on that basis, maybe 30 times forward earnings. You still call this stock a buy?
Yeah, it's look, it's probably on the numbers I've got, we've probably got them on about 25 times earnings, but reducing down into high teens over the next couple of years. Obviously very sensitive to gold price movements, but with that strong growth locked in, you know, those sort of multiples are certainly not out of whack, and in fact perhaps cheaper than some of the peer group that it's going to end up in. As you mentioned, they'll become the 5th largest gold company in the world, and those companies attract a premium rating.
Yeah, but that's all dependent on whether or not it can buy, I believe, here gold at this point. I mean, they're offering $8.5 billion here. The previous advances have been rejected. Do you think this one's actually going to get through?
Yeah, I think we're down to the home straight on this. They've got through the major hurdles. They've got the management of Lihir on side, the final shareholder vote and court hearing over the next week or two. In the result, they put a bit of a sweetener of a increased dividend that was ahead of expectations. And if Lihir comes on board, those shareholders will be entitled to that dividend. So I think it's the last little push to get them over the line. And if we were going to see a competing bid emerge, I think it would have come out by now.
Okay, now what do you think about Newcrest itself being a takeover target, a potential takeover target in these M&A times?
Yeah, look, they obviously have to wait to see the outcome of the Lihir merger, but once that happens, you know, they'll be a very big player. There'll only be a few players that would have the appetite to take on someone of their new size, so it does limit the potential a little bit. Probably the companies that are more vulnerable are the ones down the ranking a little bit, something like maybe a Perseus, which is is developing a couple of mines in West Africa, getting very strong growth in finding its ounces and starting to develop those ounces. So those sort of mid-tier companies are a bit more vulnerable than the scale that the merged Newcrest and Lihir will be.
Okay, yeah, that's right. Perseus is your favorite in the gold sector from what I see. You also have a buy call on Newcrest. What about, the iron ore sector? You're preferring these smaller stocks, I guess, such as Atlas Iron in the iron ore space and Equinox as well.
Yeah, Equinox is a copper producer. Atlas we like just because of its aggressive growth plans, and they're just in the final stages or just completing a merger with Aurochs. And that's a nice match for them because it matches their aggressive production growth plans with access to infrastructure, and that's a key feature in Australia, that you've got to have the rail and the port infrastructure to be able to take your product to market. And Atlas was perhaps a bit tight for that prior to the Aurochs takeover, but now that they're finishing that off, they're very well placed to keep growing. Similarly, Equinox, another growth story. We like copper because the market looks pretty tight next year, so we think that'll support high prices. And Equinox, with its Lumwana operation, is really just starting to hit its straps. So that growth that's been promised over the last few years is really starting to kick in nicely. And we saw a good earnings result from them, quarterly earnings result from them just last week.
Okay, Grant, nice talking to you.